Hello, everybody. Rob here. Welcome to the webinar. We're going to talk about the MLN Avid option card. Before I start, just a couple of little points. You will be muted and your video will be switched off during the course of the webinar. There's a Q&A window. You can ask some questions in that window, and we got a couple of experts, actually proper experts, on the panel who can address that in real time and also save up the good ones for the end, and we'll answer all of the questions that there are in the end. Great, I'm here in Barcelona at home. Chris is in Belgium in the Lambrechts studios, and we're going to take you through everything to do with the MLM card, Milan, and the Hive AVD controller. So I'm going to give you a kind of overview theoretically, and then we're going to go through it in real time with real equipment, real patching in Chris's studio. Okay, great. So first off, this is about the MLN-192. It's a Milan option card. It's a way to stream AVB from the SXL out into the world, or between the SXLs themselves and off to third-party devices through switches. And so I'm going to just start off here and say, so what is AVB? AVB is a open standard developed by the IEEE. It's controlled by a group called the Avenue Alliance through certification. And that means we have a kind of interoperable ecosystem that enables precise timing and low latency requirements between diverse applications. And actually, AVB, the kind of wider AVBs in automotive industry, is in all kinds of IT, video, audio. It's a very wide group. AVB is a kind of high-performance method for transporting audio and video signals over standard Ethernet, whether it's a Cat5 or a fiber. The big thing about AVB, right, its kind of standout feature is this thing called bandwidth reservation. So you have a guaranteed QoS, a quality of service, right? Your guaranteed quality of service, which means that the 75% of the bandwidth of the network, up to 75%, is reserved for what we call time-sensitive packets, right? So audio or video. In our case, it's audio, of course. And that means that the audio will be sent over the network without any risk of dropouts or degradation of the media because, of course, we're in this reserved range. So the other 25% could be used by, connection internet from the stage to the front of house or for some control data or whatever. Is kind of piggybacked on the network. But the kind of the body of it, up to 75% maximum, is reserved for the audio. And that means we have a kind of predetermined arrival of streams, right? It means that AVB not only ensures the arrival of the time-sensitive streams, right? So it's going to get there whatever happens, and it's going to get there without any problems. And it assures when it will arrive, okay? Which is really important in audio, of course, because that means we have the synchronization of the networks, right? The synchronization of the devices on the network. We use a thing called GPTP, which is General Precision Time Protocol. And that enables, through clocking, that all of the devices are synced, right? That means if I send the left out of one device and the right of another device, it's going to get to the speakers phase accurate and time aligned. Avid and AVB, we've been involved in AVB for a long time. We're deep into AVB. If you've ever plugged in one part of the SXL platform to another part of the SXL platform, of course, you've used AVB. Earlier than that, the S3L used AVB to connect between the engine, the Surface, and the I/O devices. And even before that, very early AVB device was the remote stage box for the SC48, which some of you people probably know. That was a very early form of AVB. And actually, really importantly, Avid is all in on AVB. If you notice the new release for the beautiful new Avid I/O device for Pro Tools, the Carbon, AVB connection from the device to the computer. So yeah, we're deeply involved in it. We're crazy keen on it. So we're going to use Milan. This is an MLM card, stands for the Milan. The Milan is a kind of subset, if you like, of the AVB. I actually remember the first meeting of the Milan group as a kind of little breakaway group of audio professionals who wanted to have a kind of a closer connection, right? AVB is so wide, it's cars and it's IT, and we wanted just a kind of some very specific format that worked for audio. And we worked really closely with our good friends at D&B and L Acoustics and Adamson, Mayer, to put this thing together. And of course with Luminex in terms of the switching and a whole bunch of other people. And it was about making a nice connection between the manufacturers. If we could guarantee that if we plugged in something that met the Milan specification, it would talk to the other device. Avenue Alliance still controls the certification of all of this. It's just a kind of smaller subset within the AVB. And it kind of enables a convergence of professional manufacturers in the audio department to just work with each other seamlessly. And it's really importantly, it's an open standard, right? So it's not owned by anybody. It's not a private company. There's no shares or stocks. It's an open standard like MADI and MIDI. They've been around forever, and MLN's going to be around for a long time. And it's future-proof because when we jump up to 10 gigabit switches, we're still going to be on Milan. We'll just be able to connect more information to more devices, yeah? And as more and more, right now, more and more manufacturers are joining the Milan group, and it's a very exciting time to be involved in this. How do we hook all this thing together? And we're going to go through this in a lot of detail. So, you know, get ready. We use this thing called a Hive AVDEC controller. It's a way that we connect the devices together, and we can patch streams of audio from one device to another, or we can actually multicast from one device to several devices. It looks a bit like this. Here you go. We've got 3 S6Ls, gain sharing, the 3 stage boxes you see on the left. The blue is our stage I/O network, is in a star topology through 2 Luminex switches. The little red lines, this is new. You can see that there's 3 engines connected with those red lines. That's connected through the MLM card and also connected to the AVDEC. I'll just zoom in on that a little bit. And there you can see the 3 cards. I call it loop through. You know, you connect one card to the next one, and then the AVDEC controller laptop can plug into any available network that's open. So once they're connected and you open up your Hive AVDEC controller app, it looks a bit like this. On the left-hand side, you can see some talkers. And by talkers, we mean devices that are sending AVB into the network. And along the top row, we have listeners, and listeners are receiving AVB audio. And you can see it's a very typical matrix kind of patch bay. If I want to patch a talker to a listener, I just choose the button that connects those 2 devices right there. And in this case, I'm connecting a 48D to a 24C. I can also connect the MLM auction cards to a Milan switch, right? And which is exactly what Chris is going to do today and show you that. And you can connect the Hive AVDEC controller directly to that switch. It appears in exactly the same way through the switch or looped together. It appears in the AVDEC controller just like this. The talkers on the left, the listeners on the top, and you just connect them together with a green dot. We're using the switch. That means we've got lots of options to connect to third-party devices, and actually we're going to show you how you connect from the S6L to a bunch of third-party devices today, as well as to connecting to other S6Ls. We've got some devices from L Acoustics. We've got a Galaxy from Mayer, and we've got a DS20 from D&B, and we're going to show you how to connect all of that together through the switch. In the AVDEC, it looks like this. We have the talkers on the left and the listeners on the right. So any Milan compliant device that's plugged into that switch will appear in the AVDEC, either as a talker or a listener or both. And actually, if you look on the top, you'll see the LA4X is a listener and is not a talker. It's because it's an amplifier, so it just receives audio. It's not sending out audio onto the Milan network. And you patch it in just exactly in the same way, from a talker to a listener in the little matrix. And we're going to go through that in real time from scratch, live from Belgium. And we're going to show you this. We've got 3 desks. We've got it all hooked up in a star network. We've got all of those desks hooked up to a switch, and we've got that switch hooked up to a bunch of devices. So now I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to open up to speak to Chris. How you doing, man? How was it, sunny Belgium?
What did you say? Sunny Belgium?
Sunny Belgium, yeah. It must do that
sunny,
once or twice a year.
It's not sunny. No, maybe winter has not arrived yet, but it's knocking on the front door, and it is getting really, really cold. So it's like the the ice dragons have blown away the wall, and they're about to enter. So it's getting really cold. Anyways,
Beautiful.
So,
Show us what you got going on there in the
so
Lambrechts studios.
first of all, big thank you for the guys at Luminex. We're actually at their headquarters here in Belgium. And what you see behind me is a whole setup. And the reason why we're here is that they have, their deep integration into Milan and the Milan group as well allows us to play with all these Milan compliant devices here. And if I start sharing my screen, I have a little GoPro set up here, which looks like this. And I'll start walking around and show you around the room a little bit. So I have 3 desks set up. 24D, we'll call this the monitor desk for reference. There's a 16C over here and a 24C. 16C, we'll call this the front of house desk. And the 24C is going to be the broadcast desk. There's 3 stage 64s under here in these racks, all hooked up to a set of switches. There's an A and a B switch sitting here. Typical star network A to A, B to B configuration like we've covered many times in the past. And then also a set of Milan switches interconnected through inter-switch linking on fiber. And over on this side, there's the third-party stuff. So we have, as Rob mentioned, a DS20 from DNB, a P1 and an LA4X from L Acoustics, and a Galaxy unit from Mayer over here, right? So if I switch back.
By the way, your cabling is shocking.
I know.
I've been looking at it for 3 days thinking he's bound to tidy it up before the webinar.
I know, but
it's a lab. I know, it's a lab. I get it.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about me.
There's worse. There's worse, right? Yeah. So here's the schematics that Rob was showing you. So exactly what I just showed you, just as a reference as well, because it's really important that we keep this in mind when we start connecting all this stuff. There's my 3 desks, front of house, broadcast and monitors, 3 stage IOs that's hooked up through the stage IO AVB into an A and a B switch, so stage IO switches, we call them, and then the Milan switch or switches, they are used to speak to all these Milan cards in our own system, and then the third-party devices as well, right? Another view of all of this would be in Araneo. Araneo is sort of the switch management software from Luminex, but it also allows you to see and diagnose and create a bunch of connections through VLANs, et cetera, et cetera. So this is just another visual representation of exactly that. There's my stage IO switches, A and a B switch. If I open up these boxes, you can see that there's the 3 engines speaking to those switches, and also my 3 stage boxes are hooked up there. And then on the Milan side, I have the SXL Milan stuff, which is my MLN cards. They're going to one switch, and then the third-party stuff is sitting here, LA4X, B1, Galaxy, and the DS20 into the other set of switches, right?
Yeah, and the reason we put 2 switches, right, is to kind of pretend one's front of house and one's stage, and they're connected via fiber. Yeah,
exactly. And the very computer that I'm doing this from is actually sitting here, is controlling everything really. So I have an extra computer here, and I'm doing all of this stuff from one computer, right?
Not to get too deep into it, but we've configured the switch so that the green ports are AVB compliant, right? We covered that in the last webinar that we did. If you don't know about this, you want to check it out. But maybe you want to explain a little bit about that.
Yeah. So this brings me into what Luminex calls groups, which is a very easy and convenient way of configuring VLANs. So the green group is my AVB on group. If I don't want AVB to show, I can put AVB compliant or AVB capable devices in a group and hide them in another group. I can have some other stuff going on here. These are my VLANs to control stage IO, and then all of that stuff, management and inter-switch linking, right? So as Rob said, let's not go too deep into that. That's a webinar on its own. But very importantly, the next step, what I want to show you is the Hive AVDEC controller that Rob was talking about as well, right? Yet again, another representation, in this case, specifically what's going on in the Milan part of our network setup, right? So there's the talkers on this end, P1 Galaxy, monitor desk, DS20, front of house, and broadcast desk. And then over here on the top, there's the listeners, all the same devices, plus an LA4X. LA4X, of course, is an amplifier. It listens, it doesn't talk, right? It doesn't send AVB back onto the network, right? So,
Chris,
yeah,
you want to maybe say a little bit something about the clocking? Obviously, there's a bunch of digital devices on the network. Maybe you want to explain a little bit how that all clocks together.
Yes. So just like with digital audio, you know, if you send digital audio streams between different devices, it's really important that those streams are synchronized, or those signals are synchronized. Streams are more used as signals in a network environment. So these streams, and if I open this up, you can see here that I have a bunch of Milan devices over here. There's actually DS20, P1, et cetera, all the way up. And all of these are part of the same GPTP clocking domain, right? So they're all sitting in the same domain, exactly the same grandmaster ID, but as the media clock master, so the device that distributes the media clock to the other devices, I've defined the SXL front of house desk, right? And actually, once you define that, over here, if I open up the front of house SXL tab and I start looking at all of the other devices and open those up, you will see that by default, the out CRF, that's the clock reference format, right? So those that media clock distribution is by default already patched to these other devices, right? So that ensures that everything is nice, tidy, synchronized, which is, of course, really important.
And just to be clear, that happens over the Cat5 connection, right? Or the fiber
it's all part of the same Cat5 connection.
It's not like you have to send a little bit of, you know, coax all the way around the building as in days of old. So it's all just
part of the same Cat5.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Right, so let's do some real life patching, Chris.
Yes, please.
Okay, we got 3 desks, right? We got the Milan cards all to the switch. I want to just send a comms mic from one desk to the 2 other desks. Comms mic maybe from the monitor desk. Should we do that?
Right. Okay, so let's go to the monitor desk. Maybe as a quick reference as well, we've decided to label or color code our input channels. So very quickly, the monitor desk is going to show blue signals or blue channels, right? If we go to the front of house desk, everything is labeled as green input channels. And if I switch to the broadcast desk is yellow, right? I'll keep reminding you of this, but that's just to differentiate that I'm actually moving between different desks, right? So I'm starting on the monitor desk. There's Mons 24D. I've already labeled this as comms, and well, I don't have a microphone there, but I'm just going to enable the oscillator here, and I can see that there's an oscillator, right? So now I need to get that oscillator or comms, I need to get that in to the other 2 desks. I'm going to use the direct out for this. So I'll turn the direct out on, go to the patch bay, and I'm going to patch this into my Milan environment through the MLN-192 option card, right? The MLN option card has a total of 128 channels, 16 streams. Each stream contains 8 channels, right? And to keep things tidy, whenever we do this, I'm going to dedicate even if I just use one channel in a stream, like I will be in this case, I'm going to use stream number 1 to do this. And then on the other desks, so this now means that, and actually let me set this to post fader, right? And maybe turn that fader up as well. So I'm actually sending stuff out now into the Milan environment, right? This now means that stuff is going onto the network, right? Of course, I now need to go to Hive and tell Hive to connect that stream in that matrix that Rob was showing earlier as well. And just for reference, right? we'll be doing this for like the next 30 minutes or so. This is set and forget, right? Once you connect this into your network environment, theoretically, you don't have to do this every day. That would be really boring, right? If you would have to do all of this every day. Once those streams are connected, they're there all the time, right? So I'm sending stuff from the monitor desk, and I'm going to distribute that to not to the monitor desk again. I'm going to send this to the front of house and to the broadcast desk. I'm working with stream number 1. There's my matrix, and I'm going to patch this in on the same side, stream number 1 in both of these desks. Green dot means that there's a compatible stream going on, so that stream is now going to the other 2 desks, right? So I'll first go to front of house. There's a channel, quickly label this comms as well. And in this case, I'm going to bring that in from the Milan environment, stream number 1 in my patch bay. And if I did that correctly, there you go. It's there, right? I've set this to post fader. I'll quickly walk over there.
Put your little insert camera on, though, Chris, so we can see you.
Oh, yep, sorry. You seeing this now?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So going over there, moving the fader down, just to show that that's post fader. So that's now from the monitor desk into the broadcast desk. So that is there.
Front of house desk.
It's front of house desk. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
While you're there, could you patch that into the matrix as well, just to show how that works?
Yeah, of course. On the output side, let me go into matrices, just select the matrix, go to the sources, and just like any other available device on the patch bay, I can go to my Milan option card and just patch that straight in from the Milan card without having to go through an input channel, right? So there.
Right. So the reason that's important, that means you could have a matrix. It's just all of the comms. It's the chat from the technicians, from the broadcast team, from the VT playback team. That can all just sit in a matrix, right? And you can feed that to a shout speaker or whatever without having to go through the input channels on your desk.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Will I do that for the other desk as well?
Just do it for the broadcast. Yeah.
For repetition. So do it on an input channel first. Label that comms as well, just for reference. Go to the patch bay, patch that in on stream number 1. That's the stream we're working on. Patch that in. There you go. There's my signal. Go to the matrix. Do that again. Matrix mixer 1. And bring that in directly from the option card straight into the matrix.
Beautiful. So, right. So we're sending from a microphone from one desk to the 2 other desks, like a shout mic or a comms mic or whatever you want to call it. Of course, we could do that multiple times between the desk. We could have different comms coming in from backline technicians or whatever, and we can bring all of that into them. But we only need to do 1 to 2 desks. Let's do something else. Let's do walk-in music from the front of house to the monitor desk and the broadcast desk. Okay.
Before I do that, I'm going to switch this oscillator back off, just so we can differentiate between all that's going on the metering, because it will get too complicated otherwise. So what we were saying was we're on the front of house desk and we're going to do playback. Oh, and here's actually a cool little thing. I'm going to use USB playback. And Robert Scoville is actually going to dedicate an entire webinar to this next week. But just as a little sneak preview, USB playback is a USB key that's sitting in the front on the console. I have just 1 track here. I'll set that track into a loop, and that allows me to do playback straight from the desk. It's not patched in yet somewhere, but I'm going to patch this into, let's say, channels 2 and 3, right?
Yeah.
So there's my USB playback. Let's tidy that up and maybe turn that into a stereo channel, right? And name that walk-in music. There we go. So now we need to send that to the other 2 desks, right?
Correct.
Again, I'm going to use the direct out for this. Turn the direct out on. I always forget to turn this on in the real world, but then we go to the patch bay and we're going to patch this into our Milan network, right? I've already used stream number 1, so want to keep things tidy. Stream number 1, use that for comms. going to use stream number 2. In this case, I need 2 channels for this. So stream number 2, channels 1 and 2, direct out. That's going to be sent through the direct outs into the Milan network, right? So
Beautiful.
next step is go back to Hive and connect those streams, right? So there's my Hive. I'm not working from the monitor desk in this case. In this case, the talker is the front of house desk. So I can close that up as a talker and open up the monitor desk. So these are the 2 matrices, my destinations that I'm going to be working with. I've already used stream number 1, so I'm going to use stream number 2. There's stream number 2 and patch that into stream number 2 on the broadcast desk and also on stream number 2 on, sorry, that was the monitor desk, and stream number 2 on the monitor desk. So if that was done correctly, if I now go to the monitor desk, playback, select the channel here, actually already quickly turn that into a stereo channel, make them stereo, those walk-in music as well. And my inputs are going to come from, remember I said stream number 2, so there's stream number 1, stream number 2, channels 1 and channels 1 and 2, and there you go. There's my playback coming from front of house, distributing walk-in music to the monitor desk, and I'll do that to the front of house desk as well.
To the broadcast desk.
The broadcast desk, thank you. It's getting all mixed up.
Oh, mate, you're controlling a lot of equipment. So
I know.
And
so,
talking at the same time.
Just, stream number 1, just for reference, I can do this to any 2 channels, just separate them apart. There you go. You know what? I'll select them like this, make a stereo there as well. Call that walk-in music. And we're done.
You could maybe just assign that to a matrix as well if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
Just to prove the point.
So let's go to the matrix again. You know what? I'll do a stereo matrix now. Let's randomly select one. Stereo matrix, sources, and in this case, it's coming from stream number 1. There's my left channel, and then also from stream number 2, there's my right channel. Link them together, turn them on, set the level to 0, and pan them hard left. No, that's right. Hard left and hard right. And there we go. Yeah.
Beautiful. Right. So we've done an input, like a talk back to a couple of desks, from one desk to a couple of desks. We've done like a stereo. In this case, we're talking, say, it's walk-in music. It could be VT playback. It could be a number of things, right? Let's do like a bunch of channels. Let's do, say, some stems or a multi-track, some playback tracks. Is a band or whatever has got some playback tracks with to work with it. So how would we do that?
So again, I've switched off the media player for now because don't want to keep things tidy. So playback. In today's scenario, I'm going to use Pro Tools. Quickly go to Pro Tools. There's a Pro Tools session. It's an elbow session. Press playback. So now there's stuff. This Pro Tools entity is actually connected to the 16C. It's connected to the C port on the 16C. Yeah, so it's being used as my sort of virtual soundcheck device. But in this case, I'm going to use it as a playback device and use the Pro Tools input mode for this. So what we see here in the mixer is venue 1 to 11. There's one stereo channel there, total of 10 channels, one stereo channel. I'm using the first 11 AVB channels on that block of 64 that I have available. This is a MacBook Pro. I'm using the 64 channel entity. So channels 1 to 11 are now being streamed into the desk. So now I can go to my front of house desk and patch them in, right? So in this case, going to not the snapshots, but the patch bay, to my inputs tab, and in my connected devices, I'm going to use Pro Tools to do this. So channels 1 to 11 are going to give me that feed. And I can just randomly start here at 6. I haven't labeled this, right? It's not a tutorial about labeling stuff. I can start labeling all of this, go gig and then snare and then et cetera, right? You know the point, but the point is, right, there's my playback channels coming in right there, right?
Beautiful.
So they're coming in. Same topology. I'm going to send them onto the Milan network and distribute that playback back to the other two desks using the Milan network environment to do this, right? So the way I do this, I'm again going to use direct out, select all of these channels, right? And just enable this. And then in the direct out patch bay, I've already used stream number 1 and stream number 2. So I'm going to use stream number 3. Not on the Pro Tools tab, on the Milan tab, because I want this to go to Milan. And I'm going to start at stream number 3, right? So starting here on channel 1, 8 channels per stream. So I'm going to cover 2 streams. The first 3 channels on stream number 4 are going to be involved as well, right? So that's very important to keep in mind, because that will reflect on how I patch things from Hive, my AVDEC controller, into the other 2 desks, right? So front of house is still my talker. I now go to both my monitor and my broadcast desk, and I'm going to use stream number 3 for the first 8 channels and stream number 4 for 9, 10, and 11, and same on the broadcast desk, right?
Nice.
So that being done, I can now go to the monitor desk and decide where I want to start bringing those channels in. I'll start bringing them in right there and go to stream number 3 and patch in all the way to the first 3 channels on stream number 4. Let go, and there's my playback over the Milan network coming from front of house. And I'll repeat the same thing here on the broadcast desk. In the patch bay, just go to available channels, doesn't matter where, as long as I start on stream number 4 and then go patch them in. I can now 11 channels, see this coming in on this end as well.
Excellent. Excellent. So let's just recap. We sent one channel multicast into 2 different desks. We sent a stereo channel to a bunch of to the other 2 desks, and now we've sent multiple channels over the network to the other 2 desks. Pretty straightforward so far. Excellent. It works pretty seamlessly. Let's now think about third-party devices. Okay. So let's send a left and a right mix from one of the desks to the Mare, to the Galaxy.
Okay.
And then from there to the speakers, right?
I'll start with the front of house desk to do that desk again. Create some signal going on. I'll just use the media player again, re-enable that, put that in a loop. There's my media player. Actually open that up, set the fader, then go to my mains. There's signal on the mains, but the mains are not going anywhere yet. So in this case, I want to bring that out to my Milan environment, right? So patch
so
bay.
up until this point, we've used direct out mainly, and now we're showing we can just use left and right out. We could use a group out, we could use an aux out or whatever. But now we're just going to patch the left and the right straight to the AVB world.
So again, me keeping things tidy, I could patch this in right there, but I just want to use stream number 5 for this. So I'm going to start main left right stream channels 1 and 2 in stream number 5. So this is now going to the Milan network. Again, in Hive, I now need to set my destinations for this, right? So we were talking about, let me close this up, or actually I'll leave it open. So we were going to the Galaxy. So there's the Galaxy. I need stream number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that will go into, and I'm going to use stream input 0. So there's 9 streams available for the Galaxy. They're labeled 0 to 8, right? So the first stream is stream 0. Connect that stream, and if I then go to compass, which is the environment. There we go. So I already pre-configured this main 16C, main left and right, coming in from AVB. I've configured this to be 2 AVB inputs, and they're coming in right there. Right?
And it's going, so they're going to go out. We've already labeled the bottom right-hand side there where we've labeled outputs to speakers. And I think you can patch that right from the summon matrix, which is in the top right-hand corner
I
there.
click here somewhere. There's some speaker arrays already pre-configured. So left goes to left, main right, left, right.
No.
Sub.
No. You patch the right to the left, and the left to the right.
What do you mean? Like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
So you got left, right across the stadium.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
One of these days we'll be back in stadiums, and that will matter.
Okay. Well, either way, I'm going to get the infills. The infills, the delays. Delays go to left and right, right? So that's good.
Yeah. Robert Scoville knows what I'm talking about.
Back to my overview. Now, if I unmute this, that arena of yours is going to get very noisy, right? So there we go. If everything is hooked up correctly. So
yeah, are we looking forward to that?
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so we sent left and a right to the mayor, off to the speakers. Let's do the same with the L acoustics.
Yep.
P1.
Yeah, P1. So no need to go back to the desk because the mains are already going out. I just go straight back to the AVDEC controller, and as a destination, I'm going to open up the P1. Same stream as going to the Galaxy. I'll put this into audio stream number 1 on the P1 processor from L Acoustics. And now in this case, I'm going to go to LA Network Manager. So here's LA Network Managers. There's my P1 on the left. If I select this and do it like this, there you go. On my AVB streams, the P1, AVB channels 1 and 2, it's coming in right there. Right?
Already patched. Beautiful.
Already patched.
Right. So we need to patch from there to the LE4X, right?
Oh, yeah.
We do that?
Good point. So back to the AVDEC controller, actually. And in this case, we're going to leave our side, our desks to the side. Obviously, you can not only patch our desks into listeners, you can also go to the P1 and patch that into the amplifier. So audio out 1 into the amplifier, and yep, I'm already seeing signal there. But if I go back to LA Network Manager, there you go. On the LA4, there's my signal coming in on the first 2 inputs.
So the great thing about that is all of the devices that are in the AVB AVDEC, we can patch all of it from the Hive, right? We don't have to go off and control it somewhere else. We can do all of that straight there. So not just from us to a third party, but from the third party to each other. Okay, here's a situation I was thinking about. Quite often you'll see the P1, right, as kind of matrix at the front of house. So the festival, right? So the A desk and the B desk are both going into that, and then it's going from that to the amplifiers. So how about we patch the broadcast into there as well, and then we'll have two desks patched into the same speaker controller processor.
Okay. So I'm not going to use the media playback. I'm just going to create a quick channel for this, so I can send that out. So oscillator and patch that in from the console. Turn the oscillator on. Actually set some level to it as well. And so there's my signal generator right there. And now go to the outputs, my mains. So there's my signal generator coming into the mains. No, that's not my, I was looking at the matrix. There's my mains. And yep, send that left and right to the Milan environment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What we wrote down 6. I'll use 6 for this. So audio stream number 6, channels 1 and 2. There we go. Channels 1 and 2 are going into the Milan network environment. And over here, in this case, I was working from the broadcast desk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, going into the P1 and I'm going to send that to stream number 2.
Stream
right?
2, yeah.
And if I now go back to LA Network Manager and select the B1, there's nothing coming in just yet, but that is why. Let me see, double check here something.
Did you?
Obviously, I'm doing something wrong. I'm going outputs, Milan 34. Where am I going wrong? Main, left, right, stream in. I am in Hive on, was I on the broadcast desk? Yes, I am on the broadcast desk. So from the broadcast desk.
To the Hive?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 into B1 stream number 2. And that should be coming in from this. Hold on. I'm looking at the wrong tab. Again, I'm not a signal. I'm not an LA network expert. I was looking at the output tab.
Yeah, there you go.
The input tab. Right. So yeah, AVB 5 and 6 is coming from the broadcast desk.
So they got the 2 discs coming in. A typical festival, you got the A disc and the B disc. You use the, you can mute them or pull the faders down between the 2 discs.
Yep.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit closer. And we talked about clocking earlier on, right?
Yep.
So maybe we could have a look at the clocking in the LE Network Manager and see how the clock is passed through the Hive into here.
Input mode, select this one, right? So here's another view of how this looks like, right? So the P1 is receiving its clock from, these are the available options. I can clock off an internal clock, set it to internal, or one of the audio streams. I want to make sure it's set to the media clock, which I have defined as the front of house S6L, right? But because our environment, the 3 systems IO sharing, actually the desks are clocked through the architecture that we use for our IO sharing. Once we're in an IO sharing environment, there's one media clock master in there, and that just makes it the other desks use that same clock by default as well. So it doesn't matter here on my audio input streams, I can select either of these streams and they will all be my media clock. So audio stream input number 1, just for reference, I've set that to front of house, and the stream number 2 to the broadcast desk, but it's basically the same media clock, right? And
basically the way to think of it is in terms of clocking, the 3 A6Ls are just the one clock. They just share a clock, isn't it? That's a way to think of it. It's one big disk. And that's how we patched it, because it's got 8 AVB inputs, right? And with 2 streams, so we patched just beneath that is where we patched the streams into that device.
Yeah, so that's my channel mapping, right? So channel mapping for the first AVB streams are set to stream 1, channel 1, stream 1, channel 2, etc., etc. And then here we do stream 2, channel 1, stream 2, channel 2. That's why on this end, we see, hold on, let me go to input, and there we go. So that's why we see on 5 and 6, channels 1 and 2 of audio stream number 2, and here channel 1 and 2 of audio stream number 1, and that's the way that we've patched them in here in the AVTech controller, right? This is going to stream number 2, and this is going to stream number 1, channels 1 and 2 in each case.
Right, cool. So we've sent to outputs, we've sent to L acoustics, and then from L acoustics to the amplifiers, we sent to Mayor. Send to D&B, please, dear boy.
Yeah, of course. Let's just take the same main out and open up the DS20 tab as well. And main's going to B1, main's going to Galaxy, and now
so the DS20 is like a bridge. It's an AVB bridge from they have AES going into their amplifiers.
Yeah, there's no visuals there. It takes AVB in and converts it to AES, which then goes into the amplifiers, right? So
yeah, beautiful. Okay, so we've done all of that. Let's think about the other way around. So have we got a device that can send AVB from the outside to the kind of S6L world? Can we send
Yes.
AVB from an outside device to all 3 desks?
Yes, we do actually. But just before I go there, I'll turn everything off to make this clear. Sorry, I'm on the wrong desk. I need to go to front of house, turn the media player off, and I need to go to broadcast and turn the signal generator off.
Beauty.
Front of house, set that to inputs, and all the desks are set to inputs this way. Now back to Hive. I'm going to use the P1 for this. The P1 has a built-in media player, and actually if we start at LA Network Manager, go to the inputs tab. If I go over to the P1 and press on the media player and press on the media player, it's a little touchscreen. There you go. So there you see, that's the media player coming from the P1. And what I need to do now is, actually, let's quickly look at the output side because that's already pre-patched as well. I'm sending this into the Milan environment through AVB channels 7 and 8. That's very important because I'm going to use, in whatever stream I connect this to, channels 7 and 8 to see that media player input, right?
Yeah, up until now, we've been using it from the front end 1, 2, or whatever, and now we're coming just to show that you can patch it in a different way. Yeah.
Here's the P1, AVB audio 1, and I'm now going to send that to the monitor desk. And you know what? What are we using? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
7 you need to send it to.
7. You know what? I'll set it to here. Channels 49 onwards. That's that one. Open the SXL. Channels 49 onwards. That's this stream, right? Send it to there as well. And that will be this one. Send it to this. So this is me now sending from the P1 to all 3 desks. And on channel 7 and 8, I should be able to patch the media player from the P1 into all these desks. So front of house first, just check some available channels, go to the patch bay, and go to stream number 7, channels 7 and 8. Actually, I'll just go here. And if I now look at my inputs page, there we go, right? I can now turn this into a stereo channel as well and label that as P1 media player, which is the source for this one. Same thing on.
So that was the front of house desk. That was a green desk. Yeah.
Yeah.
The blue one, the monitor
so
desk.
Do that over here as well. Make the stereo now and select stream number 7, channel 7 and 8. And there again is I skipped the naming. And on this desk, I'll just go straight to the patch bay, do it from the inputs page, and then go stream number 7, go all the way down to some other channels and just randomly select that channel and that channel. There we go. These 2, turn them into a stereo.
Cool. We could, yeah, when you've done that, we can also just put it straight into the matrix as well, just to show that we can receive that from a third party as well. Let's
go to matrix. I already have a stereo matrix here. So that was the USB playback coming from the other desk. And in this case, 49, right, let me check which channels that should be. Sorry about that, 49. So 55 and 56 would be the channel numbers for that. So where was I? Where's the matrix I was using? That one. So let's go here. 55, there's the left channel, and 56 over here. There we go, 56, and there's my media player.
Again, so again, we can bring it straight into the matrix without having to bring it through channel. So we could have a kind of playback matrix with VT and playback from different devices. We'd have a comms matrix, and we can stream all of that wherever we want, right?
Yeah.
I think we've done everything that we wanted to do, and apart from getting the input and the output page mixed up, we did that pretty well. So let's just recap. We went from input on one disk to streamed it to two other disks. We did a stereo playback from the front of house, I believe, and sent that to the two other disks.
We did. Yeah.
We did a left and a right from the front of house desk to the acoustics.
We did. Yeah.
To the mayor. And to the D&B, and from the L acoustics P1, we patched it directly to the LE4X.
Correct.
And then we took an input from the P1 and multicasted that to the three disks.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Like you said earlier, and this is really important, we only have to do this once, right? We only have to get the app deck out once, do it at the start of the theatre show or the start of the tour, season when, you know, in your house of worship or whatever. Of course, we can also patch. We can also just have kind of generic patching as well. So we could have a bunch of streams. We got loads of streams, right? So we could have a bunch of streams that were just generically patched, and then we can just patch inputs and outputs as we choose without the app deck later on, right? We can just have them patched for just in case later on. Yeah. So
exactly.
You can see
you can create those style lines. You know, actually, you had a slide up in your presentation early on where you were seeing, you know, just a whole matrix of green dots between the desks, and you can just assign, let's say, 32 channels going from one desk to the other in all directions, just by default there. And as you need it, you just grab them.
Just add, if you add different comms mics, you can just add them in on the patch B on the desk. You don't have to go to the app deck. So it's a set and forget, right? You set it up once, you forget it, and off you go. I think that's what we've got. We got Ryan out there, Ryan, who's the godfather of all of this stuff, as the 7.0 godmother of whatever you are. So you've been following the Q&A as we go, right?
So we had quite a few questions come in.
All right.
I'll start.
Just before you start, we've also got Bart from Luminex, who's going to keep us honest with all the AVB questions. So thanks for being on there, Bart. Right, Ryan.
Make sure that we're not saying anything silly.
Let me start with the question that I also have. How do you control 3 desks from one computer?
Do you really want to go into this?
Yeah.
So
jump desktop.
Actually, this is also mainly due to Bart, who, you know, at first I was sitting here and all these network NICs, physically USB adapters and all of that going all over the place. And Bart walked in at some point and he was like, "What are you doing? That's not necessary. You can use, VLANs and all of that." So I basically here have, so let me go to this, right? So here's
the basic thing is the basic thing before you go to the complex is you've got remote control via jump desktop, right? So you're ECX out of the desk, which is just a Cat5 out of the desk to remote desktop control of the desk.
Yeah, but all of that is running over, there's 2 Cat5s connected to this laptop. One Cat5 is dedicated to Pro Tools only, right? That's all it does. So that's the AVB port connected to the C port on the 16C there behind me. Yeah. The other one is going to this
so the Areneo,
yeah. So the other one is going to this part, and that's the network NIC that's sitting here on this ISL port. So it's an inter-switch link, right? Which has management untagged. That's really important. And then the other 2 switches are going through 2 groups. And if I open up my groups, you will see that that's a VLAN that is configured to stage IO A. So that's my sort of pink port. That's stage IO A. If I grab this switch and move it. No, I can't. So, and the other one is stage IOB, right? So these two switches are interconnected to stage IO 8A, and this one is stage IO B. And then in my network preferences, this is where it gets really nifty. This is my physical connection, which is an IP address for that range of switches, completely masked away, by the way. And then I'm using 3 VLANs. This is my Milan VLAN. This is my A switch VLAN, and this is my B switch VLAN. And actually, this one is the E6L. So that's this DHCP self-assigned IP coming from the C port on the desk. So, I mean,
the gist is basically a bunch of VLANs and ECX and remote control.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So on all these desks, you know, if I go into, for example, this one, options, interaction, enable remote control, this one is, you know, it's going through the same switches actually as the Milan. So that's 192.168.10. 51 is one of the desks, and then, you know, this one would be 50, and then the third one is 52, right? Interaction.
And you use the subnet mask to hide them from other
and I
things.
use the subnet mask to, you know, everything is hidden from
Right.
everything else, so it doesn't conflict on other stuff.
Very nice, very nice. I guess a little bit more into the topic of Milan specifically.
Mm-hmm.
There was a question for how is the Mac running Pro Tools integrated into the Milan network? And you covered it briefly, but is there anything extra you wanted to throw into that?
So if I understand the question correctly, I need to go to the front of house desk. Maybe start at the system devices page. So this Pro Tools entity, yeah, is the C port. All right. And if I open up my audio MIDI setup, in my audio MIDI setup, you will see that in my network device browser, that's my entity. That's this Mac, which I'm using right here, is connected to that entity. And Pro Tools, in turn, has its playback engine set to that entity, right? Oh, cancel, cancel, cancel. Don't do that.
It's live. You can tell it's live.
Oh, I know, it's live. So that's sort of my bi-directional, and the way this works is it's our architecture of how we do virtual sound checks. It's sort of top of channel pickoff, et cetera, right? But in this case, I'm using it as a playback device. So on this desk in my systems page, rather than actually, I have set it to virtual sound check, and that's a miss from me because I should have set this to input mode. But when we did a clear console earlier, but it doesn't matter, right? The difference between virtual sound check and input mode is basically when I switch back, it will ask me to compensate for gain changes or not, right? So that's basically the difference. But then that makes the patch bay available in my connected devices to patch in Pro Tools streams, as long as I don't patch in stage.
Yeah. So basically, simply, you're patching straight in, as we always do, over AVB from the Pro Tools straight into the desk, as we generally do, and then you're using direct out from those channels to the Milan network to get to the other two desks, right? That was I think that was where the question was at.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the gist of it. I mean, the Mac itself is not a Milan compliant device yet, so you can't just plug a Mac straight into the Milan card and have it feed. There are hacky ways to make it work, but it's just not there yet. But you know, Apple is continuing to develop with AVB, so we'll hope it gets there.
But right now, we were just using using it coming into one desk and then streaming from that desk to the other two desks, rather than multicasting to 3 desks from Milan directly in. No,
right. Yeah. So the next question, which seems like, of course, this would have come up. Milan appears to be a lot like Dante. How does it differ from Dante? And then the second question that kind of goes with that was, what functional advantages does Milan have over Dante? Obviously, most manufacturers are going to make the choice of which they'll support rather than the consumer, but there will be some times where the end user has an option between the two.
Oof. you want to take that, Chris, or Bart? Do you want to jump in on that one?
Actually, I'll tee that up for Bart, because this is part of a conversation that we were having earlier on today, even where we were discussing sort of the next step in our testing setup. And I think Bart is going to bring in some Dante devices to bring in Dante on those same set of switches and sort of merge everything together. The gist of it is, and then I'll hand it over to Bart. The gist of it is that and maybe this is one of the differences. AVB does a stream reservation, so it guarantees that whatever your bandwidth capacity is for, in our case, 192 input channels and 96 output channels, we claim that as we need it on the network, right? If we're not using that bandwidth, say we're only using 25% of the bandwidth, the rest of that bandwidth is available for other protocols. So you could stick Dante on there and everything else, and it will just merge, or Bart has a better way of explaining this. So maybe Bart, if you want to jump in here.
Yeah, sure. So like Chris said, it's actually the difference there as well. Every protocol has its place of living, of course, but the main difference is that AVB and Milan actually reserves part of the bandwidth, and to be clear, it only reserves the part it needs, and the 75% is there to put a maximum. But and maybe Chris can show that later in Araneo, we actually show how many bandwidth there is reserved for this application. So you can actually see, like, for example, I'll wait till that screen pops up, because then we can see the real numbers. So you can actually see that it's reserving in transmit, for example, only 12% of the bandwidth on port 2. Okay? That's just an example. So, but that means that AVB is reserving that bandwidth and will have it available at any time it needs it. So there's no other mechanism like priority queuing or anything that will move AVB Milan out of the way. On the other end, like Chris mentioned as well, all the other part of the bandwidth is still available, even more than only the 25% in this case, because we're only using 12%. So, and the beauty of Milan AVB is that it allows the way it's been built, actually the way it uses priority and how it goes along with data, it allows for other data to live in between. And it does not allow to have burst data, like one chunk of large data, which means that even what Chris mentioned is that we're going to start some testing where we put quite an amount of Dante channels into the same network environment with AVB, which should be able to live along each other as well. So the difference between AVB and Dante, or Milan and Dante, is mainly here that it really reserves the bandwidth, and at all times when the reservation is done, it's at all times there. There's no other mechanism that can move it out of the network, but it will not expand further in the network, which is an important topic as well. It's fixed and it's guaranteed.
Nice.
Maybe
I just like to say, I know as a manufacturer, there was a reason that one of the reasons we chose AVB is an open standard, right? It's not owned by anybody. We don't have to pay anybody. And also
one thing I wanted to add to that bandwidth as well, and this is something that Bart at some point made me at least realize as well, is that all these ports, these are 1 gigabit switches, but it's 1 gigabit per port for both. So it's 1 gigabit send and 1 gigabit receive per port, right? There's a lot of data that can be handled. If you translate that even into 96K channel amounts, there's a lot of channels that can be handled in that bandwidth here. I'm pretty sure it's going to go up into the hundreds of channels, which if you apply proper switches.
If you show the switches on the I/O sharing part, you see more bandwidth used.
Yeah, okay, so actually that's 192. So that's 3 stage 64s which are connected. So that's 192 channels of input and 96 channels of outputs going on there.
Yeah, I think if we were to break it down to the most layman way of saying it is for the most part, if you create an AVB network of audio, it will continue passing audio while that network continues to exist, even with other traffic on the network. Whereas in some scenarios, if you have a Dante network of audio, as you start adding other traffic onto the network, you may well drop your audio.
Exactly. Yeah. Very good point.
So next couple questions. Adrian asks, if one of the components is changed, and I believe this is in the context of Hive, if one component, let's say you removed a P1 and put something else there, do you have to repatch?
I'm going to say yes, because streams are identified by device ID, etc. So yes, Bart, correct me if I'm wrong. If I were to unplug the P1 and plug it into a different port, that would not matter, right? Because it's going to go on the network. But if I remove this P1 and replace it even by another P1, it would have a different MAC address. And I think this is layer 2 protocol. So you would have to reconnect those streams, correct?
Yes, correctly. It's every unique device has its unique identification. So changing it to another port on the switch within the same Milan network does not influence. It will directly find again and connect automatically. But changing the physical device, of course, you need to make that device aware of that stream.
Yeah. So if I were to do a gig today and I'm running through a P1, my channels patched from my console, let's say left, right, sub, fill, I don't know, outfill, whatever. Great, I patch that to my P1, not a problem. And then if I were to do a gig tomorrow and let's say I had a Galaxy instead, my channel patching on the console is still going to those same places, but my Milan stream is going nowhere because it's not going to find that device. So I will have to reconnect that in AVDEC. And now I will then be feeding left, right, sub, whatever it may be.
Exactly.
To the new device that I've now connected.
But it's, it's probably going to be 1 or 2 streams.
Yes.
The work is seconds. Yeah.
But that's going to be the same in the Dante network as well, right? So.
Yeah. Good question.
And then the last question is, where can one learn the Hive software?
Well, you can just download it, right? It's freeware. You can just download it and have a play with it. Right, Chris?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a couple great YouTube videos too that someone walks through everything Hive. So if you just search Hive AVDEC, that's AVDECC, you'll find plenty of resources. So that's it from questions.
Cool.
Wow. Okay.
I'll stop the share, right?
Cool. Well, that's awesome. Robert Scoville, do you want to add anything? Do you want to tell us about your webinar next week, sir?
Oh, sure thing. By the way, nice job there, fellas. Boy, that gets down in the rabbit hole pretty quick there. Nice job by you guys, for sure. Next week.
We didn't rehearse that at all. Yeah, it was completely spontaneous.
Yeah, next week we've added a 6th webinar, as you guys might know, to our series for Venue 7. So I'm going to do USB record and playback. I'm going to take you through all the ways that you can do that in Venue software, which is really great. You can trigger playback by all kinds of mechanisms on the console. I'm going to show you how to record. I'm going to give you some tips on archiving and editing metadata to create archives, etc. So should be an action-packed hour for sure.
Awesome. Really look forward to that. I loved it on the S3. I'm so excited that we got it on the S6L eventually.
Oh, me
finally.
too. Yeah,
100%.
That tough you get at the end of the night saying, have you got a recording of the Tonight Show? And you just go, yeah, here's a USB key. So,
you just email it to somebody. That's some beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, one last question came in just now, and it's a good one, easy answer. Can 2 Milan cards, desks, talk directly with each other without a switch?
Yeah. Rob, do you mind bringing up that slide quickly again, where you just have the loop through going on?
I can do. It might take me a little minute to find that particular
but
slide.
The gist is yes, you can actually.
The question is yes, but I know what Chris is saying. He wants me to go back to. Look at this, all backwards. Where's it gone? There. Yeah. So there's if you just choose any 2 of them, Milan cards, they're just connected together with a bit of Cat5, or that's it.
Yep.
Yeah, and you still do need to use Hive to at least connect the two devices to one another.
Yeah, but you could just plug it into the open port on the
Mhm.
card, so you don't need to switch to do that. Yeah. Yes, resounding yes. All three need without a switch, or even to a third-party device without a switch.
Yeah.
Phew.
You know, there's one more there. I don't know if you saw it come in. It's worth answering. Does Milan support primary, secondary, redundant networks similar to Dante?
Again, maybe Bart can jump in here. I know, for example, the Galaxy allows you to set redundant streams. I think the P1 allows redundant streams as well. The LA4 does not. Currently, our network card does not in this phase of the release. So it will be a single network. Correct, Ryan?
Correct.
Excuse me. Right. If there's no more questions, I'm going to call it. Bart, thank you for attending. Thanks for lending us your very nice, clean warehouse facilities. Ryan, thanks for all the hard work. Robert, genius. See you next week. Chris, great job, man. Really good job. Glad you had to shave.
Same back to you.
You look like Santa Claus last week. That's it. Thanks for joining. Join Robert Scoville next week. Nice one.
Thanks.
Thank you, fellas. Appreciate it.
Bye, guys.